Space rocks are hitting our planet literally all the time, thousands of them every single day. Most are tiny, no bigger than a grain of sand, and they just burn up in the atmosphere, putting on a nice little show for us. But today, we're not talking about those little guys. No, we're going to run a simulation, a kind of cosmic catastrophe featuring 5 of the deadliest known asteroids to ever cross our path, all hitting us on the very same day. So buckle up. Our tour of planetary devastation is about to begin. So that's the big question, right? What would that even look like? We're going to build this up layer by layer, starting with something that's, a regional disaster. And we're going to keep escalating all the way up to a true planet killer. One that makes the dinosaurs' worst day ever look, well, kind of tame by comparison. Think of our atmosphere as this amazing shield. It's like a planetary security system. And honestly, it does an incredible job. But the 5 impactors we're talking about today, they're the exceptions to the rule. They're just too big, too fast, and way too powerful to be stopped. They're the ones that punch right through. All right, let's kick off this day of devastation. And we're starting with our first impactor. Now, it's the smallest one on our list today, but don't let that fool you. This thing can still cause some serious damage. For our first rock, we're hopping in the time machine. Let's go back about 50,000 years. Earth is deep in its last ice age, and this big old chunk of iron and nickel that's just been floating around minding its own business for eons decides to pay a very, very violent visit to what we now know as northern Arizona. So let's look at the stats here, and wow, these numbers really paint a picture, don't they? This thing wasn't just some rock. It was basically a 300,000-ton bullet fired from the cosmos. And the key here is that it was made of dense iron and nickel, so it didn't just burn up. Nope, it held together and slammed into the ground with the force of 10 megatons of TNT. Just boom! Everything for miles flattened. And get this, even if you weren't right at ground zero, you were not safe. The shockwave alone. I mean, can you imagine? You'd be hit by this instant wall of sound and heat. Absolutely terrifying. And it didn't stop there. It didn't just dig a massive hole. The impact literally shook the planet with the force of a magnitude 7.5 earthquake. People would have felt that tremor hundreds of miles away. So yeah, a huge regional disaster. But believe it or not, our day is just getting warmed up. Okay, time to up the stakes. Our first asteroid hit a pretty empty landscape, right? Well, this next one is taking aim at a major city. We're going from regional disaster to a full-blown city killer. Okay, so let me introduce you to asteroid YR4. Now, in the real world, this was a close call. Astronomers spotted this thing. It's about the size of a jumbo jet, and thankfully, they figured out it was going to miss us. Whew. But in our little thought experiment today, we're playing out the worst-case scenario, and its target is Bogota, Colombia. Now, here's the crazy part about YR4. It doesn't even have to hit the ground to cause absolute chaos. As it's screaming through the atmosphere, the pressure just builds and builds until, bam, it explodes maybe 10 kilometers up. It's called an airburst. Think of it like the deadliest firework ever, where the shockwave just annihilates everything below. And the scale of this thing, it's just mind-boggling. We're talking about 15 megatons of TNT. To put that in perspective, that is 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. 1,000 times. Buildings just gone. Debris flying everywhere. For that whole part of the world, it would be a day of fire and ruin. So, while South America is dealing with that absolute horror, something else is happening. Something weirder. Another object is on its final approach. And this one isn't one of ours. It's not from our solar system. It's an interstellar traveler, and it's got the power to wound an entire continent. Remember Oumuamua? Man, this thing drove scientists wild back in 2017. It was the very first object we ever detected visiting us from another star system. And it was just bizarre. I mean, it wasn't a sphere or a lumpy potato. It was shaped like a cigar. 10 times longer than it was wide. So weird. Well, in our scenario, it's not just flying by. It's making a house call. Okay, so imagine this thing coming in hot at over 20 kilometers a second. It would light up the sky like a second sun before it slams into the Amazon rainforest. The energy release, about 1 gigaton. It would rip a 4-kilometer-wide crater right in the heart of the world's green lung, ignite the forest, and just choke the skies with ash for weeks on end. Okay, we've seen a region get leveled. We've seen a continent get scarred. But now it's time for the main event, the big one, the celebrity of destruction. You know who I'm talking about, the one that caused the most famous bad day in the history of planet Earth. Yup, the Chicxulub impactor. 66 million years ago, a rock bigger than Mount Everest, by the way, slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula. And this thing didn't just wipe out the dinosaurs. It completely rewrote the story of life on this planet. And in our simulation, it's back for an encore. Whoa. Okay, just look at this chart for a second. See those first two bars for the Barringer and YR4 impacts? You can barely even see them. This isn't just a step up in power. This is a completely different league. We're talking about 100 million megatons of TNT. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around that number. And here's the really important thing to understand about Chicxulub. The initial blast was bad, yeah, but that's not what killed most of life on Earth. It was the aftermath. The impact basically vaporized the ground and threw so much dust and debris into the air that it literally blocked out the sun. For years, the planet plunged into a deep freeze, a global winter. So the plants died first, then the things that ate the plants, then the things that ate them. The whole food chain just collapsed. It wasn't a quick death. It was a slow, cold starvation. Okay, let's recap. A city killer, a continent scarer, a dinosaur killer. I mean, how could it possibly get any worse than that, right? Well, it can. Our last impactor is a ghost from Earth's ancient, violent past. Something so big, it makes the dinosaur killer look like a little firecracker. All right, for this last one, we have to go way, way back, like 3.3 times billion years ago. Earth was a totally different place, mostly ocean, barely any oxygen, and then S2 arrived. This thing was 200 times more massive than Chicxulub. It didn't just cause an extinction, it literally reshaped the surface of the entire planet. And just look at this. This is the grand finale. Remember how huge the Chicxulub bar looked just a minute ago? Now look at it. It's just a tiny little sliver next to S2. This is world-breaking power. We're talking about 20 billion megatons of TNT. The numbers just start to lose all meaning at this point. The fallout from this is, well, it's something out of a nightmare. A fireball the size of a continent. Earthquakes 100 times stronger than anything we've ever recorded. The top layers of the oceans literally boil away, and molten rock rains down from the sky, everywhere. You see, this isn't just another extinction event. This is the planet's reset button. Nothing, and I mean nothing, complex is surviving this. And there you have it. Our simulated day of devastation is over. We went from a big hole in Arizona all the way to a global firestorm that hits the reset button on life itself. What this really shows us is that our planet's history is it's written in fire and impacts. The only reason we're here at all is because we won a very, very long and, frankly, lucky game of cosmic lottery. You know, a thought experiment like this is a good reminder that the very same forces that can create entire worlds are the exact same forces that can shatter them. We live on this incredible, dynamic, and sometimes really violent planet in a really violent cosmos. It makes you think,